Let's see how this works. Yeah.
Will you send me the link as well?
Yes. Did I not put it in this chat? Oops.
There we go.
Okay. Now.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, it can hear us. So I'm gonna just mute the audio capture for a second on OBS. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, that's a good point. Hello, hello, hello. There should be a delay. Yeah. Okay, great. Um, unmute me on Discord. That's because I have you muted on Discord right now. Now you should be able to hear yourself.
Okay. Oh, okay. Hello? Yeah.
Yeah. You're not gonna want to have the stream up while we're talking because you're gonna hear
Yeah,
an
no,
echo.
absolutely not.
Okay.
I just want to make sure it was working.
Gotcha. Um,
Yeah, this is the thing. Okay.
yeah, we're
Cool.
gonna do a thing. Oh, Fishy's already here. Hey, Fishy, please help me out. Does this sound like good levels? Like, um, what's its nuts? Volume wise.
Since when is this happening?
I was actually just about to ping you about it, Fishy. This was just about to be a thing.
I'm gonna switch to my other account.
Yeah, it sounds good. No one's like too. No one's too loud or too quiet.
Yeah, I'm gonna type in chat and you should make me a mod.
Okay. Oh, let me make Fishy a mod.
Yeah.
Get fished, idiot. I don't know if you're gonna be here, but there you go. You're a moderator now.
There we go. That makes it a little easier. Yeah, I'll just have the stream muted and I'll type in chat. Oh, yeah. No, don't, no. I'm not a mod yet.
No, you can't ban Vali. There you go. Vali is now above Fishy as a
Oh,
managing moderator.
Now I can ban Fishy. Banned.
I think it just means you're. Oh, don't ban Fishy.
Not banned.
Stream's bitrate is currently lower than the recommended bitrate.
I don't think that's important. That's just that should just be visual stuff.
Okay. Great. Getting a ping in.
Damn it. No.
What's its stats? Okay. I wonder if anyone's actually currently watching, because that would not be great.
It says two watching now. I think that's me and Fishy.
Yeah, that is you and Fishy. Great.
We could probably mute OBS now.
Yeah. Let me get another image that says, "See you in 20 minutes."
Yeah. Also, you should send the good link to Wolf.
I did.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Can
everybody in the chat.
yeah, can y'all hear us? We good? Anyone having issues?
There better be no issues, because I do
If
not
there's
have any
issues,
tissues.
someone's getting banned.
That's true. If you have a computer issue right now with the way that we're talking, like it's not coming out in straight levels or something, you're getting banned.
Yeah.
You hear us, Felix. Wonderful.
Cool.
Hello, Alex.
Very cool.
Hello, Moxie, Knox, Fishy. Wonderful to see you. If you're watching this right now, put a what's the most weird emoji you could put in the chat right now? Just put a little weary cat, you know? Can we get some weary cat action in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh my. These are even better than weary cat. Fuck
Here, I
weary
got
cat.
this
Just
one.
put your best
I
thing
got
out
this
there.
one.
Yeah.
Cat in the box. Let's go.
Box cat.
We're just gonna let a couple people file in. We'll start talking about stuff around 5:30.
Yeah. I gotta eat my croutons. My
Yeah.
Olive Garden croutons.
Hell yeah. It works. Very cool.
But what if it doesn't? You know?
Yeah, this is true.
Who determines work from play? What if it plays the violin?
What if it's well, I think the person who determines if it works or plays is that song the whoever did that work hard and play hard song, you know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
work hard, play hard,
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That
yeah.
one. They're probably the arbiter of work and play.
Rocky
If I
Balboa.
yeah. Is that who is it Rocky
Yeah,
Balboa?
yeah, work hard, yeah, play hard, yeah,
Adrian,
work hard.
play
Adrian,
hard,
put
play
on my
hard,
favorite song, Adrian. Work hard,
Adrian,
play hard. Yeah.
Adrian, the Mud Wizard, Adrian.
For any of you who didn't recognize the thumbnail, it's the German mud wizard who stopped the cops at an environmental rally a few months ago.
Yeah. Super based. Is it gonna come back to that thumbnail, or is it just gonna say live stream starting for the whole stream?
I'm not going to leave that on for the whole stream. No, we actually haven't started yet. I guess. I mean,
No,
I suppose I
we
could
got a
take it
minute.
down. It's
We got a minute of faffing about.
the actual thumbnail is much less impressive than this stock footage
If we
live
could
stream
get
starting.
if we get a light show behind the Mud Wizard, damn.
Okay, let me do that real quick. I got you. So there you go. There's no laser lights. I lied.
Oh no,
The actual
no, it's
thumbnail is
not.
Fishy's face. Here, let me upload an image of Fishy's face and get that on stream for you. I'm sure
Alright,
Fishy's is
no
fine.
problem.
No, I'm not doing that. All right.
All right, it's time.
Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the. Nope, that's not what this is. This is me, Glade. You know me.
Yeah,
Talking with Valley. Do you
I'm
know
Valley.
Valley?
I know Valley. They're me.
I'm glad you know Valley.
Yeah.
I was more concerned that the chat might not know Valley because it's been a while since you put anything out.
Yeah. It's been a fat minute. Just because I don't have all the time in the world, but this is a perfect opportunity to talk about these things and just get this information out there. I think it's valuable.
Valley, where can they find you?
You can find me at my YouTube channel. Not super active at the moment. That's not always going to be the case. Let me get a link for y'all real quick. But I'll put it into the chat. There's some good stuff on there. Some topics. There's the older things. I'm not super happy with the older things. Probably going to rehash that at some point. By the older things, I mean like the way older things. But the videos where I'm like actually a person not like hands or images. Those are the ones I would watch if you're gonna watch anything.
I like hands personally.
Hands pretty good. Some of those videos are all right, but the new ones are the ones where my content's more refined.
So, Vali, how would you describe yourself really quick?
Uh, I am a occultist, Norse heathen, indigenous practitioner, uh, poet, and cyber wizard. I would say.
Cyber wizard. Now that
all,
is
all,
impressive.
all I mean by cyber wizard is just like most of my wizarding is in online spaces, just because that's where people see me as a wizard, typically.
Oh, that's fair. That's
Not like
perfectly fair.
I'm casting fishy. You will get banned.
Ah,
um, Not like casting cyber spells onto people. I think that's just called like hacking or whatever. I don't know, something crazy to do with like code.
yeah, I think it's hacking is a good word for it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
uh, regardless, now that you have had an introduction to value, hi, I'm Glade. Uh, you know me. We're here to talk today about a little something called magic, which is something I've wanted to talk about on the channel for a long time, but never found a way to really work it in so far. Um, and that's why we have Valley here, because Valley is one of the most educated people I know on like theory of magic, and we've talked a lot. And for the most part, this conversation is going to be a rehashing of several conversations I've had with Valley because they're good. That's it. That's all you need to know. They're
Thank you.
good conversations. And Valley, they are also good.
Oh,
um,
oh, okay.
yeah. So without further ado, I suppose we should get started with like the fundamental question that we're hoping to look at in this live of what is magic, right? And I think
Yeah,
answering that question requires you to first, uh, well, I think answering that question is a lot of steps, and it may not be something you really can do. Um,
we're gonna do our best.
right. Uh, Valley, why don't you start?
Yeah. So, um, I like to start with a really basic definition that comes from everybody's favorite 15th century occultist, that is Henry Cornelius Agrippa. And to paraphrase what he says in his books in the very beginning, magic is a conjoining of inferior and superior virtues in ritual in order to achieve a goal. Uh, Now that sounds like a bunch of jibber jabber, but what that means is, I guess I should define virtue and what Agrippa's talking about when he says virtue.
Yeah,
Uh, it just A virtue is just like a quality of something, um, not really an association,
a
like
characteristic.
association, a characteristic. But it's more verbal, as in like an action. It's more of a verb. So like something has the quality to dry things, or to heat things, or to freeze things. That would be the virtue of that thing. Now, inferior and superior is not like a value judgment um, term. All it means is the place in which something has, and how it reacts with something. So think about like a big cog turning a small cog. The small cog would be the inferior virtue, and the big cog would be the superior virtue. Um, a quick example might be copper, for example, has the virtue in association with what's her name, Venus, or the planet Venus, and that connects to the whole Roman thing. The classics were really into like associating astrology with like the Roman gods and um, yada yada whatever. But copper has associations with Venus, and so the superior virtue would come from Venus, and the inferior virtue, um, the inferior virtue comes from the copper. And so, how that relates to magic is that when you put these things together in a ritual, we'll just stick with the copper thing. Say you're doing a ritual with Venus in order to achieve a goal, uh, whether it's you want to be more charismatic or have better luck with lovers or whatever. Um, these are all really base examples. They're not necessarily meant to be applied, but you might utilize copper in that ritual.
Hey,
Um,
Valley, I'm gonna stop you right quick. Your
yeah.
Discord's doing the fuzzy thing again.
Uh-oh.
I don't know how you have fixed that in the past, but
Is this better?
yeah, much better, significantly better. It sounded like it was pouring down rain, wherever you were.
Weird. Very weird. I'm not sure why that keeps happening. Uh,
Yeah, I'm glad it's
was
an
there
easy
anything?
fix.
Yeah, I just have to turn my noise suppression on and off.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Is there anything that I need to go over again?
Um, I don't think so. Because
Okay.
that's that's quite a bit to start off with.
Yeah, it's a lot to go into. So let me just condense it real quick. Magic is when you take a thing and associate it with another thing, and then do a ritual about it, and then you get a goal accomplished. And you can extend that out a lot. That's where things get really complicated.
In that complication, you you get this bit where folks will be like, well, okay, magic is using associations to accomplish a goal, right? But how does that work, right? Like, uh, in what way is me uh, pouring mud into a bowl with oil and looking at the shapes uh, actually practicing divination? Um, I think that's kind of a point where you have to get into this notion that we have where we distinguish magic from reality. Um, and this is getting a little deeper into it, a little more in the weeds than, or I guess not much more into the weeds than inferior superior virtues, because that is heavy weeds.
Yeah.
Um, but this idea that uh, a magical practice is a practice with the very fabric of reality itself, like this understanding of liminality and how we're all connected, um, and that this distinction between uh, divinity and the spiritual from the physical is not quite as tangible a distinction as we might initially seem.
Right. Uh Sorry, repeat that last part again.
I said that this distinction that we make between the spiritual and the divine from the physical may not be as tangible as we think,
Right.
um, or rather, not
I
as.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I know what you're getting at there. Um, I think it's hard to really like speak that, right? It's difficult to put that into words that can be understood. Uh, but I think a good way of looking at it is, I mean, we could just fucking dive straight into uh, like proximality and liminality, um, because I think those are necessary things to define if we're going to talk about um, the sort of tangibility and the associations of things and things within things, because that's what magic is about. Magic, to go beyond the base Agrippa definition, um, extending magic out is altering your space. Um, it's altering the reality around you in order to achieve what you want. And I think it's a good time to point to things like in the new age, like manifestation and like thinking positively and like um, crystals and this and that and yada yada. The thing about new age practices is there's not much substance or structure. There's not much physical interaction.
Tends to be very
It's
passive.
Yeah, it's very passive. It's very much just thinking really hard about it. Um, and so the important difference is the physical interaction you have with the world and the structure in which that's done. And that's why there's different magical systems, because each different magical system has a different way of interacting with the reality around you.
The f-
Uh,
the fuzz is back.
the fuzz. I'm really, really not sure
We really hate
what's
the
going on.
fuzz over here. If you can't tell.
Hold on, my fan settings.
Your fan? Are you messing with your fan in your computer right now?
Well, my computer has a fan. It's a
Whoa.
laptop, relatively close. Um,
Don't melt your hard drive for this.
no, 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 no. It's
It
it's not gonna melt.
it sounds
It's just a
significantly
laptop,
better
so
already. I don't know. It's
okay.
yeah. I don't know how much is actually coming
Oh,
across onto the stream compared to what's coming across through Discord to me as well.
yeah.
Um,
It might be just Discord.
that's possible.
Um,
Um, so yeah, getting back to this idea of like we have to define liminality and
Proximality.
proximality.
Yeah.
Um,
So, go ahead.
I think it's. Would you think it's more useful to start with liminality or proximality?
Proximality is familiar by definition.
Right. Um, I'm, I'd like you to start with that because I know how I would define it, but I'm not sure if we're necessarily there.
Sure. Yeah. So, uh, proximality is just your familiarity with the place.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Basically, it's a proximal space is uh, it's comfortable. Your bedroom is a really good example. Maybe a workplace you go to every day. Uh, Reality there is solid. Um, you can expect certain things to happen consistently in those spaces. Um, when you're in your space, your bedroom. Oftentimes, if you do feel comfortable in your room, I hope you do.
Yeah.
Then there's a certain a certain peace that you can feel there, and that's what I'm calling proximality. And this can extend to a lot of places. Yeah, if you like your workplace, for example, your kitchen, your home is generally a proximal space. But I like to use the bedroom because I think the bedroom is a really good example. Um,
Everyone
and
feels
then
most comfortable in their bedroom.
Yeah, and then to really relate it to human experience, having a day where things just feel off, and maybe you feel a bit like you keep bumping into things in your room, or like things aren't in the right place, uh, that sort of thing. That would be an example of that proximality being messed with for some reason. That familiarity and that solid idea of that space is somehow being distorted.
There's a certain amount of expected results that you can receive from a given action in a proximal space that you don't necessarily have in a liminal space.
Yes, yeah. So, um, a liminal space on the other end of that is a space in which things are unfamiliar. Uh, Reality is not fluid. Sorry, reality runs thin. It's not solid. So, like a gas station bathroom is one of my favorite examples because, there's a large number of possibilities that can happen in a random place like a gas station bathroom. You're not familiar with the place generally. Uh, it's a new space, and you don't have a concrete idea of what's going to happen in that space.
Yeah. Because you could walk into the gas station bathroom, and all of a sudden the apocalypse starts. That's pretty unlikely, but it's possible.
Uh, yeah,
You could walk into a
exactly.
gas station bathroom, and there's a guy in there blowing his nose, and it like drips all over the faucet. Gross, but not something you would expect. Not something that is like, how do I word this?
Unexpected.
Yeah, it's unexpected, but it's not like out of the ordinary for a gas station bathroom.
Yeah,
It's an
and
area
that
where
that
there's
speaks.
a expanded amount of possibles
Yeah,
possibility.
it speaks to the the little fine adjustments and details in which proximality and liminality is understood. And like even on an off day where your bedroom might not feel quite right, it's still going to be a lot more comfortable than if you were just like at a highway, you know?
Yeah. If you stub your toe in your bedroom, you're not going to feel out of place. You're just going to feel hurt.
Yeah. And I think the question becomes like, how does this have anything to do with magic at all?
Yeah.
Um, and the answer to that is that's a big question. Um, but uh, I think the simplest way of putting it is that when you perform magic, you are altering the liminality or proximality of a space. You are changing it. And this also applies to things like just regular ritual. Uh, just like if you're religious at all, and you're doing a ritual. When I pray and I do ritual at night, um, the space in my bedroom is no longer the same familiar space. Instead, it's a space in which I welcome the gods, I welcome the ancestors, and I welcome uh, the local spirits to come and join. And um, inside my bedroom, their reality is more concrete at that moment. Um, this is where it gets a bit more functionally strange. So
to
if you think
to
of
give a to give a mundane example. Sorry, don't mean to cut you
no
off.
no go ahead
To give
go
a
ahead
mundane example, in case that makes it easier for anyone to understand, think of that same workplace that you've been at for years and years and years, and then you get new management, and suddenly the
yeah
place feels different. You no longer feel
yes
like you're in the same home that you were before. Um,
yes I would agree with that. Um, so how right okay so if you have a cat, speaking on the fluidity of reality, if you have a cat, generally that cat is going to feel real, right?
right.
um, that you're going to be able to pet that cat, you know that cat's name, the cat is around in your house, yada yada, it's your cat. uh, Now if my cat is outside of my room and I am performing uh, ritual and I welcome in the gods. The idea is that the the sheer um, existence of the gods in that space is overwhelming, uh, occasionally, and so their reality feels more real than the cat at that moment.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize if you were waiting for me to say something or if you were going to
No, no,
continue.
that was it.
Um, so this kind of gets into a point where we have to. Perhaps this should have been the start of this conversation, um, because we're talking about, using magic. You're adjusting the liminality of a space. You're adjusting the amount of possible outcomes, the fluidity or the thickness of reality, um,
Yeah.
which is a lot to take in.
Yes.
But what it doesn't answer is how are you getting to a desired goal through magic, right? Because if all we're doing is making a space more liminal, aren't we just making it more likely to be unexpected? More likely for something that we're not
Yeah. Right.
intending to happen, which is where we
That's
have.
where
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's where the structure of these systems comes in. That's where the virtues of things come in. That's where the ritual done in a specific way comes into play. These certain associations that we have with gods, spirits, and otherwise, um, they are what structure our goals and how we attain those goals. Um, like in planetary magic, for example, oftentimes you're going to be doing ritual during a specific hour, um, on a specific day, even honestly down to a specific minute sometimes, or in a certain time period. You'll be using that as well as physical objects occasionally, um, and poetry and some other things to construct a ritual in which your goal is achieved.
Yes. In part of the way, it's hard to explain this because magic is esoteric, and by saying esoteric, I don't mean it's undefinable. I mean it's something that is hard to put to words unless you've actually done it. It's mainly experiential. Um,
Yeah,
uh, the best way to describe things like this tends to be analogy, which is difficult when you're trying to have a conversation about theory.
yeah,
Um, so I'm gonna give the image that we've talked about before about layers of reality, right?
sure, yeah, go for it.
So uh, everyone, you understand what the idea of like space time is, right? You've all seen that picture of a endless grid with planets bending things and warping things around it. Think of reality as somewhat like that. You have this sheet with multiple layers going through it, and each of these layers represents a different possible outcome, uh, a different fate for what is going to be happening. And the ones that are more likely in your proximal space are going to be the ones up top. And in that proximal space, those layers are thick, so it takes a lot of work to get through them to grab something from below, grab a different opportunity, a different outcome. Whereas when you're creating this liminal space, the idea is that you're making it easier for you to plunge your hand into the depths of reality and pull out a new um, your desired uh, outcome, your desired task. Um, that this idea that reality is like a fine uh, not a fine mesh, but a tight fabric, right? And when you loosen it in that liminal space, it becomes easier to pass your hand through it and pull
Right.
out what you're going for. Some things are so far down in there, you're never going to be able to reach it. Or it's so much resistance that it's not
Or the
accessible to you.
possibilities are just extremely low for you being able to reach it.
Right, right. Or it's like functionally impossible where yeah, you could do it,
Yeah,
but you'd have to try a billion times.
yeah,
Um which is where I'm like, magic isn't going to solve everything. You can't use
exactly,
magic for everything.
exactly.
But the
Yeah,
idea of magic is rather fundamental to the way that we look at the world as magical practitioners.
yes. And so, in that metaphor, we're thinking about. I like to apply it to an ocean, and so you have that ocean that Clade was talking about, the um, sort of depths of reality, uh, and then above you you have like the light of the sun coming down, and so that light coming down is like proximal reality. And below you, as the light filters through the ocean, it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. Um, and this is sort of uh, like a platonic ideal kind of metaphor, in which above, up where the light is, that is the pure idea of something. And then um, or sorry, no, I'm getting a little mixed up. Sorry. Down at the bottom is where like abstract numbers, concepts, those sorts of things, the pure thoughts of things exist. Like thinking about a chair. What is a chair? That's down at the bottom, right? And then that light filtering through, that is the proximal reality from which we can see things, right? Because it's light, and with light you see.
I thought that was going somewhere.
No,
Um,
that's it. I was just adding on.
gotcha. Um, so in the way that you structure ritual, the way that you structure your magical practice, that is your tool for going to reach going and getting that new uh what did you call it, proximal reality.
Proximal, yeah.
Yeah. um which is where which is where you gotta have So, hmm, give me one moment.
Yeah.
Is there any questions in chat, by the way, really quick? Any of this making sense to y'all?
We're going to get into the practicality of all this as well.
Yeah. This is meant to just be an overview briefly of like the theory of what is magic before we dive into how is magic, right? Um, are we gonna hear the ocean metaphor? That was
I
just.
just I just did the ocean metaphor.
Can y'all not hear Valley? Filing it all, ready to hear more. Gotcha. Um, so I think this is a point in the conversation where we've discussed this idea of what reality is while you're a magical practitioner, like ways in which you can approach reality.
It's a framework.
Yeah, that's the right word. The framework that is kind of underlying magical practice. Then we've gotten into this idea of proximality versus liminality and the way that ritual and things interact with it. And we've gotten into uh, it may be time to touch back onto inferior and superior virtues.
Right.
Um,
Right. So, um, what's a good example of this?
it may be better to start by defining the goal and
Right.
then
Okay.
going off of that.
So money, for example, really common magic is like money magic. Uh, if uh, Planetary magic is usually where I go to for money sort of things, just because it's really simple, it's really easy. Jupiter is generally the planet you would use for money magic, and Jupiter has the superior virtue about uh, about it. It is a royal, regal, jovial, wealthy, expansive. Those are all associations or virtues that we have with uh, Jupiter. It has a quality um, of expanding upon things, and so the inferior virtue um, can honestly be applied to a lot of things. That's where magical systems become more personalized, more able to be like bendy and things that you yourself as an individual can mess with. A common thing you might use is money in the ritual, coins, paper money. Um, you could use, if you're thinking about expansion, you could even use a balloon in the ritual if you wanted to. You can mess with a lot of things, and all these objects have um, virtues that in some way connect to the superior virtue, right? Big cog, little cog, right? So these virtues are way more simple than um, like just talking about them makes them sound. All it is an enacting quality. Um, it's something that something has, and therefore impresses upon the reality of the space. Um, for example, a heater in your room has the virtue to make it hot. It heats things up, right? In the case of a planetary money magic ritual with Jupiter, the coins have the virtue of literally being money and being used to. Fuzz is back. Shoot, hold on.
Oh, so
I
you
know why I
can hear
closed
the
that.
fuzz. Okay. Okay.
All right, better,
Try to speak again.
better.
It's underlying it, but it's significantly less loud.
Okay, I'm really curious as to why that happens, but so money has the virtue of being exchanged for goods, for building one's wealth, for doing all of the things that Jupiter does in essence. And the reason I bring up a balloon is because I already said it, expansive and a balloon expands, right, when you fill it with air. If you wanted to, you could somehow utilize a balloon in the ritual. Now, um, virtues aren't the only thing you need in a ritual, but they're. Oh, I just turned noise suppression off.
Oh, I would turn that on.
Yeah.
There we go. Now you're clear as crystal.
Why it didn't? Okay, there we go. Great. Um, this is annoying.
So,
Whatever.
Jupiter, expansion, using a balloon.
Expansion, using a balloon, all these things. These are just that's what a virtue is, right? Something that has an enacting quality.
Yeah. Um, so
I think from there we would do the practical
I
application
do
of
believe
these.
that is where we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd like to. I think it's probably a good idea to start with when we're discussing the practical application. This idea that anyone can do magic, right?
Yes.
And that's true. Anyone can do magic, but how
Yes.
your magical practice will develop is not necessarily under your control. Um,
Yes.
if that makes sense. The the fundamental of any system could work for any person, right?
Yeah.
However, you as an individual, your technique for going about magic is going to be better suited to uh, different traditions or different methodologies than it
Yeah.
would from someone else, right? So yes, anybody can do rune magic, but someone might find more utility with rune magic than another person based off of the way that their magical practice has grown.
And this speaks to life more broadly as well. Um,
Fuzz.
it the
I'm
fuzz,
so
the
sorry,
fuzz.
boss. This.
No, it's okay. I just don't know why the fuzz. Uh,
There we go.
I just have to turn noise suppression on and off. It's weird. Um, this speaks to a broader understanding of life in the sense that you individuals can do anything they want. Uh, individuals have omni potential in a
I can
sense.
run for president.
You could run for president, exactly. Do you want to? Like, do you want to do that? Is that something you truly want? Do you have a scope of what all of these things entail? Anybody can be an astronaut, a baker, a scientist, a road worker, a construction manager, a deli owner. Anybody can be any of these things. But do you want it? Like, is it actually something that's like feasibly attainable for you? Anyone can cook, exactly. So, and it's okay to like be relative about it. Yeah, you might not be a professional baker, but you can always make a loaf of bread in your home because it's fun, right? And it tastes good, and it's a good skill to have. Um, the point I'm getting at here is do what makes you feel comfortable and what feels good to you. And if it's not magic, then it's not necessarily magic. However, I would really doubt that it's not magic in some way or another, because I think that magic is really baked into a lot of human culture and expression. Um, and there are so many varying traditions, so many possibilities, and so many uses it has that it would be hard to find someone who has absolutely no chance of doing any magic whatsoever. Um, I'd
Yeah.
fare better as a baker than a freight. Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you would. Maybe someone would fare better as an astronaut that has zero skill as baking, or with as a baker. Like that's what the point is that magic um, is another skill. It's something that you work at. It's something that can be difficult to understand and something that takes uh, a lot of structure and um, a good a good amount of sifting and laboring and working to
I'm
get down to the bottom of like what the fuck is going on here.
I'm gonna stop you right there,
Yeah.
because the noise suppression again. But I'm gonna
Okay.
continue on the point. While
Yeah.
hopefully that I don't know. It seems to escalate while you continue to talk. I don't know
Weird.
what is going on. So to continue the point, um, I, I also agree that I would struggle to believe that there is someone out there who cannot do any magic at all, or magic is not helpful to them in any way at all. Um, in that there is a an infinite amount of multiplicities of ways that one can approach magic, right? Um, which is why I tend to give this recommendation that if you're going to build a magical practice, you should really be looking at your goal first and then technique second. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, the point of doing magic is to achieve said goal. And working backwards from that goal is going to tend to yield you finding whatever method works best for you through your experimentation. I hesitate to use the word experimentation because it's magic is something that while you can like repeatably do it, right, it's not going to be necessarily that same amount of um, process and reliability. It's not something that's empirical, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
but if you start from your goal and you work back, you're going to tend to find that path of least resistance. um, think of yourself like a current, like an electrical current. You have the same, you're going to get to where you're going in the same amount of time, because as you meet a roadblock, it's going to push you in a different direction. As much as you are pushing reality and the universe, it's pushing you back.
Yes.
So it may be a bumpy start to creating a magical practice. You may feel like nothing's working for you. You may feel like uh, no matter which tradition you try, it's not it's not it's not helping. Um, just be patient. Uh,
And
it
also just doing. Just
Yes.
doing is really important. Just do it, because people dance around, and there's lots of armchair occultists who will just read and read and read and have a bunch of theory in their head and not really know what they're actually doing because they don't ever do. If you read a whole bunch about chopping a tree down but you never do it, you're not going to have a good feel for chopping a tree down. Or riding a bike, same thing applies. Magic is another skill, right? um it's so important to just get into it and try things, because you might find that you have more success than you thought you might.
So that kind of brings us to we've got this idea of like, okay, generally, by the way, noise suppression. Sorry.
Right.
Generally, um, there's this there we go. Oh, I don't know what that is, boss. Um,
All
Generally, we
good.
got this idea of like, okay, we're working backwards from our goal to figuring out the method to getting to the goal, right? We're we're using ritual structure. We're creating our own associations. Um, how do you get started? I
Well,
Go ahead.
uh I think it's just jumping in, trying something, even if it's silly sounding or feeling. um a lot of magic is very theatrical. uh the base components, I'd say, for a really simple ritual are objects, a goal, um maybe some candles to get you in the vibe. The vibe being that space, the liminality, the proximality. Um, writing a poem or reading off a poem. A really popular thing used by magicians and occultists throughout forever, or for a very long time, not forever, are the Orphic hymns. They've been used for quite a while in order to just be a stand-in poem to a specific deity. Um, they're all pretty much like Greek or Roman, and I use them in planetary magic all the time just because they're so damn good. They sound great. They work wonders. I like using them, but that is just one component, right? So you got your objects, you got your candles, you got your poem. Maybe dress up a little bit. It's a lot of it's about theatrics and creating a space, and then enacting the process of the ritual You start by lighting the candles. You say some words. You state your goals. You uh, go about reading off your poetry. You collect your objects that have virtues and associations, and maybe you do something with them. Maybe you just have them around. Magic is highly able to be personalized, and also depends on the structure of the tradition. What I'm talking about right now is really basic stuff, really easy things to do. Um, and applying it practically, people think cast fireball. It's like, no, I would rather just have some money. Like, it'd be cool to cast fireballs. I'm sure I could make some money off of that somehow, but I'd rather just have some money in my pocket, right? Um, like that's some really simple ritualized magic.
Yeah. Um. So really quick feedback. Um. So I think this is a good point to start like talking about because I know you kind of you touched on this, but in that same way we always sort of tangent. Um.
Yeah,
Uh. This is a good point to start talking about like how do you build a ritual, right? How do
right.
you've let's say that you've got your associations from wherever because that's generally in my idea like the first thing you have to do once you have a goal set out is you have to figure out what are you intending to use like what are the
Yeah,
associations that matter to you and generally those associations are going to be built through experience and through knowledge, right? So like
yeah,
I have an association with the Spanish moss and healing. Why? Well, Spanish moss is really it kind of works as like wound dressage. I don't know the right way to say that. Gauze, even not even like that.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
That works.
right. So that is an association that comes from a mundane thing. People used to use Spanish moss to hold wounds tight when you got a bandage or something. Um, hold wounds tight. That's not either way. Uh, you have you have your association, but you can form from wherever. Now, how do I get from I've got this set of associations and I've got this goal? How do I actually use the things? Um, and in some amount, that's going to have to be intuitive. Um, but another way you can start going at it is looking at the ways that these practices towards this goal have been done in the past, right? So, like looking at divination, almost every form of divination outside of like random have two like main components: random chance and imagery. Some of them don't have imagery. Like, I mean, you could count rune divination as imagery, but I think it's more akin to like a sigil kind of thing
Sure.
than even imagery. Um, so that's where you might start with. Well, how do I introduce random chance into this ritual? Because you could do it any number of ways. Um, the way that I do it is I just stir my bowl of oil with the mud in the bottom, and I have a indiscrepant amount of materials to start with. That's
Yeah,
enough random chance for you uh, to really get that core part of divination, which is uncertainty. You know, you have this. Um, what's the right way to say this? You're gonna need to help me with the wording on this because you know much more Agrippa than I do. You have this like superior virtue
yeah.
um of finding um some
Right.
amount of clarity, right?
So
Of
you
searching.
would connect that to whatever. Divination, in my experience, you're playing like a paranormal game of telephone, right?
Yeah.
And so that superior virtue of finding an answer, having advice or something, that would come from the the spirit that you're interacting with, if that is the idea that you choose to go with in regards to divination.
Right. Okay, that lost me for a second. I may have zoned out.
I was just, it's okay. I was just saying, the superior virtue stems from the spirit that you're interacting with, right?
Right.
And so if you're divining and you're attempting to reach an ancestor or something, that superior virtue of getting advice that the ancestor knows about comes from that ancestor. And so the inferior virtue would be in this case the the method of divination.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so that doesn't really work with where I was going with what I was saying, but that's okay because
Oh,
we kind of
rip.
come at this from two different approaches. Well, no, it's just I was using the wrong terms. Superior and inferior virtues. What I said.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so like in feedback, by the way. Um,
Ah,
I'm sorry, boss.
no, it's okay.
In
I don't. I'm sorry.
in introducing that random chance, you're emulating other magical practices, sure, but also you're now inserting, okay, now I have a certain amount of opportunities in the same way that life, you have a certain amount of opportunities that could come your way. And then your intuition and interpretation of that random chances and the imagery that you're inserting is going to be um, your way of exerting your. It's awkward to. I probably shouldn't have used divination as the example because in divination the
No,
goal really
no,
isn't
I get what you're
manipulation.
I get what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I think that with divination, you are that imagery and how it connects to you, your personal language, your personal symbolic language. It is a way in which whatever you're communicating with can talk to you and make sense of these things. Um, and so it's why you can a magical practice, for example, is making your own deck or making your own method, and these connections that you have to the method, uh, those are the that is your will, that is your ability to um, interact with the fine-tune adjustments of liminality and proximality in order to achieve these things that you're setting out to do. In this case, you're setting out to gain knowledge, right, or to gain advice or something. And so this is your personalized method of going about that.
yeah. So in the process, to go back to the broader conversation of like how do I create a practice, how do I create a ritual, because ultimately your practice somewhat creates itself. It's through your own just doing of magic that your practice will form around you. I mean, it takes work, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that you can like. It's something where active like how do I want my practice to change may not necessarily be beneficial to your practice.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so you got your end goal in mind, you've got your associations, and now you've kind of looked at the methodology of what you're doing, right? And you've looked at how is it that I find it is going to be best for me to use these associations and exert my will, right? Um, and from there, there's not much more to it
Yeah. That's
besides
it.
doing it.
Yeah, it becomes really simple once you get all of this stuff into your head. It becomes a lot easier once you're able to understand this framework. Um, it becomes a lot easier to actually enact what you're doing. It's and to put it aside, it's just a framework. You can think about magic in a lot of ways. This is the most useful interpretation I've been able to come up with. But magic is ineffable by nature. It is nearly indescribable to a certain point. Um, and so having a framework, even if it's not 2000% accurate, helps in doing these things and feeling confident. Uh, it's like training yourself in a way. Like the first time you try and do something, you're probably not going to be the best at it, but you might have a knack for it or something. But you still got to learn certain things. You still got to know your way around certain things.
Magic is this is I think I'm not sure how much more what much more we can say to the practical aspect of it. If you have
Yeah,
thoughts, please follow up after this.
yeah,
Um, Magic is a lot like a smartphone, right? Underneath the hood, there is countless amounts of knowledge that had to come into creating this, right? You have a knowledge of electronics, an understanding of mining, an understanding of manufacturing, an understanding of circuitry and software, not to mention all of the things inside of that phone that none of us know about. And realistically, there is an element of random chance to the way that like physics behave and the way that particles behave and how electricity moves from one to another. Like you could have a random uh, radiation particle from space. A radiation particle isn't the right word, but I'm tired. You could have radiation
Oh,
from space flip a switch from a 0 to a 1, and all of a sudden everything breaks. That's happened before. It's very rare because there's so much empty space. But regardless, you have a smartphone, right? And there's all this stuff behind it that is important, but is in a way unaccessible to the majority of people. Yet we all know how
yes.
to use a smartphone for the most part. Like we can turn it on, we can make calls with it, we can function its interface without understanding all the nitty gritty of what goes on inside.
Yeah. You can do magic sometimes without even knowing like that's what you're doing. That's actually where a lot of like folk traditions come from, or like how they exist today. Certain like reasons people do things, because that's what they've always done, have magical connotations to them. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on any that I can think of right now. But or well, a really simple one that isn't necessarily magical in nature is like leaving things out. Um, in the UK, it's more popular, but like leaving things out as appeasement offerings to um, certain spirits and entities, the Fae usually. Um, that's a good example of what we're talking about. Uh, it's
Which
just it's built into like human ability to tinker with and construct certain ideas and mess around with things.
Yeah. An example I would use is like, and maybe this isn't the right example to use, but I feel like it's a good one. Uh, you spill salt, you worry you're gonna have bad luck, you throw the salt over your shoulder, right?
Yeah,
That is taking the thing that has the association with the bad luck and passing it behind you, putting it in your past, in your rear, as you
that's
move
good.
forward, right? Um, so in a way, magic is all around us. It's something we do every day, even without realizing it. And sometimes I do hate that it is like that because then you get those people who are like, "Oh, you don't realize you've been doing magic this whole time."
Right. Yeah.
If someone is not a magical practitioner, don't tell them they're doing magic because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, whether you believe they're doing magic or not is irrelevant to their own like consent in the process, right?
Yeah. I would agree with
Um,
that. I think there's a distinction to be made between uh, the general cultural practice, the general magical aspects of culture, and the individual practice.
yeah.
There's definitely observations to be made, but you can't just like be like, "Oh, you're doing magic," you know?
Yeah. And in a way, magic is an inevitability of the certain things that make us human and connect us with the divine, like
Yes.
this innate desire to know or to manipulate the world around us, right? All living things try and change the world, but we
Yeah.
seem to have not a unique capability, but certainly a certain um, certainly a strong um, understanding of how to best utilize that at times. And
Yeah.
hindsight's 2020, but through the process of the formation of culture, through the process of innovation and curiosity, we create magic around us even when we're not intending to.
Yeah.
Because
Magic plays a role.
because if we're defining magic and the way that we have throughout this conversation, in which magic is indistinguishable from reality, um, there's no real way to get around it.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that's a pretty good stopping off point, honestly. I think we've covered a lot of uh like practicality as well as like theory and stuff. And
yeah,
we're getting up of that hour mark that we set out. So I think if anyone has any questions,
I think yeah.
if not, that's totally fine. But and if you have more to say, go for it. But I think that's
I was gonna turn it to questions.
yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any particular questions for us, shoot them in the chat right now. If not, the stream's gonna end in a few minutes. I'm gonna give
Yeah,
it
and
like. Go ahead.
I'll just post my YouTube channel one
Yeah,
more
post your
time.
channel again.
Beep boop
Um,
bop. And this will be saved and split into chunks. You can find I think it's okay to do magic/divination with or for non-pagan people, but yeah, informed consent is the key. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Um,
Knox, that comment was more or less not trying to say that you can't do magic with people who aren't magic practitioners, but implying that someone's actions as a non-magical practitioner is magic is like a violation of their consent, their autonomy.
it's definitely
Um,
dicey territory. Yeah.
that's because at that point, if your beliefs are applicable to other people's like intent and or rather if your how do I say this? If your framework is able to be pushed onto other people's things, it's not really your framework anymore, and you become
Yeah.
dogmatic.
Yeah. We don't want that. No dogs and no mats.
No, dogs and mats separately, but not together.
Yeah. No more laundromat dog time. Not
Feedback.
about it. Ah.
It's okay.
Alright.
It's okay.
Um,
Don't worry about it.
so this will be uploaded in two halves. The first half we're gonna upload onto Glade's channel over here, and then second half we'll upload onto my channel, and you could find this in those two spots if you want to rehash some stuff or whatever. Uh, but I appreciate y'all coming to hear us rant and rave about complex theory and practical application and beep boop bop, whatever. Uh, that's my closing statement.
Yeah, I hope this didn't just sound like nonsense.
Yeah.
Because in a way, if you're doing it right, it does. Um,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
ever so frustrating to say to people, but
Yeah.
regardless, it's true.
Yeah.
Um, oh,
Quick.
we got one question.
Quick plug for the really useful text. The Principia Discordia. Oh, we have a question.
Yes, the Principia.
Curious.
Really quickly, the Principia Discordia is it's a religious pamphlet that it's like 90 pages long, takes an hour to read, and I'm a slow reader. Uh, it's completely available online for free. It's a sort of exercise in the abstraction of reality, which I think is lovely feedback.
Super useful. Feedback.
I'm gonna read out this question really quick.
Yeah.
Curious about your thoughts about when to do magic. I think I can guess, but would like to hear. Sometimes I feel like it's not warranted and should stick with the mundane.
I no is my answer. Well,
I
not really, but like I think that if you feel like you want to put in the effort to do magic, then do it.
mm-hmm.
Why like there can be a lot of things holding you back from actually going for it. And it can be that you're making an excuse not to do it.
Yeah,
Because sometimes I run into that where it's like I could do this uh I could do this ritual, but that takes effort. So I don't want to do it, but I probably should do it because it can't hurt, right? Um, and that you might find that you are gaining knowledge and understanding, and you find that something works. And I don't think there's a good time when to do magic necessarily. I think that magic is a useful tool that you can use to get something done. Um,
yeah,
if you do magic to do the dishes, I don't think you're gonna have some spirit come into your home and do your dishes for you. Like that's not necessarily a way to go about it. But you could try and use magic to give yourself more motivation. Um, yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with reserved for when it's strictly needed. Like, um,
to add on to that, in doing magic, we're not saying just do magic, right? Obviously, mundane issues are going to need some mundane work as well as magic if you're going to be utilizing it. Anything anything can be accomplished without magic. However, magic
yeah,
is a good tool.
yeah,
Um, in that, the only time I could ever say where I would be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing magic is if you have noticed that you've created somewhat of a dependence on magic.
Yeah,
on magical practice, because that is a thing. People have a need for confirmation, and in doing so, they find something that works and they begin to do it maladaptively. We don't want to do
yeah,
that. Or
yeah.
if you're talking about something that is unethical, right? Like, so
Right.
there's a concern about like baneful magic, where people are like, you should never do baneful magic. I don't agree. There's times and opportunities where baneful magic, quick definition, is like something negative, something harmful, right? Um, there are times where it's necessary or useful, um, but there are other times where it's like, well, if I'm trying to do a spell to make someone fall in love with me, one, it's probably not going to work, right? Because
Yeah,
you're putting your willpower in direct opposition of both their willpower, and you have issues of like whether or not your space is liminal, they're in a different space, and all this other stuff, right? Um, Along with the idea of, well, that's like a clear violation of consent, right? So the
yeah.
only time I would say don't do magic is when it's kind of an evil thing to do, which is very
Don't be
rare.
an evil wizard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Got a question from, oh, go
fishy.
ahead.
Yeah.
Question from Fishy.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say to someone put off by the idea of magic because they're worried they might fuck something up with it? Oh, this is a really good question.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Um,
Um, go ahead.
I I don't know if me and Valley agree on this one. Um, I am of the opinion that it's really difficult to fuck something up with magic. Um, in that, uh, while we have, yes, like historical accounts of like people saying uh, someone got sick because they wrote the wrong runes and left it under their pillow, right? And then it was like, oh, you wrote the runes wrong. This is why your child is ill. Um,
Hey, I'm Hegel. You wrote the runes wrong.
you wrote the runes wrong, Regal. There are. It's really it's really difficult to like hurt
Yeah.
something, to do something, to mess something up with magic, because at the end of the day, magic is about exerting your willpower. There's not
Yeah.
like a there's not like a reality feedback when you do it wrong, where your
Yeah.
own willpower is working against you, right?
Yeah.
Um, at the end of the day, most of the things you're going to mess up by doing magic is a mundane thing, by like, you know, um,
Lighting your tablecloth on
like
fire.
right, and
Yeah.
not to say that those mundane whoopsies that are like, oh, I lit my tablecloth on fire, they could have a spiritual significance, depending on how it happens, right? But for the most part, your magical practice is like you using a tool, right? So, um, I'm if I'm using my smartphone, unless I'm throwing it at my head, I'm pretty unlikely to mess myself up with it.
Uh, yeah. I would heavily agree that it's pretty difficult to fuck things up with magic, and that if you do fuck things up, I think you should fuck around and find out more. I think that exploration and making mistakes is really important, and that you are probably not going to mess anything up too massively. Um, I don't think that there's anything that uh,
There's
you're go ahead.
there is inherent risk in everything we do in life, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's about measuring risk, and the risk of doing magic versus not doing magic is mostly mundane. The risk of your time and effort.
Yeah.
Um,
Another question. I'm also curious about the energy source of magic in your practices. Do you use your own? And if so, is that dangerous? Or do you channel another energy source's energy, not really come into it? I uh I'm not a fan of the word energy. I think it's a bit of a nothing word, especially in regards to magical practice. To me, energy is like a nuclear power plant generates energy to power the lights in my home. Um, as far that there is like in ritual, um, there's like components in which provide something, right? That's something that you could potentially call energy, but I tend not to because I don't see a use for it. Um, like I'm not using energy besides what I'm doing. Like food provides energy. Like I guess the energy that I would be performing with in a magical ritual would come from the food I ate that morning.
right.
Um,
Um,
eh,
if I may,
yeah,
uh, uh, what you see a lot of the times is when someone is talking about energy work and their magical practice, um, it ends up being kind of a conversation about feelings of exhaustion, without sort of realizing it. And stop me if you think I'm totally off base here, but when you do ritual or you do magic or you do anything for an extended period of time, you feel tired, right?
Yes.
Um, and that tired feeling after you do magic can be kind of gratifying. It can make you feel like everything's worked out. But
Yeah.
like the process of doing magic is not of itself exertion. It is not of itself like physically exertive any more than any other task that requires your concentration and
Yeah.
your um your willpower, right? We're not
Yeah.
um we're not like tapping into some fundamental source of energy and then changing it. Like there is no cosmic um what's the word here?
Source of energy. I don't know.
Right. It's not like we're Nikola Tesla pulling electricity out of the air.
Yeah.
Um it's it's a concept that gets put around everywhere, but it's not really one that correlates to magic outside of people who are building a practice around that thought. And when they do that, they try to extend it past to other forms of magic where it doesn't really apply.
Yeah.
And even looking at its own practice, and this is where I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth, but like even looking at energy work as a practice, it doesn't really line up with the way that folks describe it. Um,
I found that to be true,
yeah.
generally, just because it's the idea of energy work comes heavily from uh, um, what you all say. No, I don't think spirit fits
I don't
into
think
that.
spirit's the right word. So, and to make this more clear, the idea isn't that there's an active manipulation of some force, but rather it's your individual connection with the very fabric of reality itself, right?
Yeah, like
It's a bit deeper than utilizing something like that.
it's
Um,
it's more like literally like the same energy you might expend to make dinner is the only energy that I think has a place in a real magical discussion. Like the food you eat is the energy you're being provided. Uh, that's how humans get energy is that we break down food and then we 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 get energy from that. You know,
yeah,
like that's the energy that you're expending, and magic can be exhausting and hard work. I mean, there's like ecstatic dance practices and there's lots of things, but there's not, as Glade was saying, there's not any like pool or source of energy that we tap into. There's not like a mana pool, right? We're not like wizards in a video game. It's
and
not there's no
I
what?
think this is something that often dissuades people from starting a magical practice because they'll feel like they're not connected to anything because
Yeah,
they have this preconceived notion that they're going to either like see something special and reach out and grab it, or they're going to
yeah,
feel a direct pulse going down their arm as they're lighting their
yeah,
candles or something. It, it's if you've done ritual, right? Magic is about as tangible as a religious ritual. Um, uh, the 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 expenditure of magic, like we said earlier, is the expenditure of your time and effort. Um, it's not like a
yeah. It's
it's
not a magic IV.
yeah. And this is something that often dissuades people from doing magic because they feel like they're not doing it right because they're not having these motions that are mainly just preconceptions, also pushed together from like pop culture representations of wizards and such. Because,
Yeah,
well, that's really awesome to look at. It's a really cool idea, but it doesn't seem to hold up in reality.
yeah.
Um, that's the realm of fantasy, I'm afraid.
Fantasy's dope as fuck. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
you're
I
never
love
gonna catch me casting
novel.
fireball.
I mean, you might not catch Glade. You might catch me, but you
True, I
know.
prefer magic missile.
I think you'd be
Magic
casting
missile.
Mudball. Uh, Mudball moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I think this is a good stopping point. It doesn't look like there's any
yeah,
more questions. Thank you all for
yeah,
coming out to
we're
this
good.
stream. I know it was really short notice. I appreciate y'all coming out anyway. Like Valley said, this is going to be split onto multiple channels, and it's going to be re-uploaded in more digestible parts. So if you see this VOD go away, don't worry, it's coming back. It's just
Yeah, it'll be back
in a different form where it's going to be a little more digestible, so you can refer back to it rather than scrolling through this hour and 10-minute thing. So thank you all for watching. Take care. Take it easy.
Have a good one.
Have a good night. Don't forget to check out Valley's channel.
See you guys.
There'll be stuff coming.
I'll post it one more time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, in the coming months, hopefully.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Thanks,
y'all.
guys. Bye.